All right, let me tell you guys about our very first sponsor. When we first set out to make this podcast, we had absolutely no idea what we were doing, but we knew we needed a place to record, edit, host, and distribute our show. Luckily for us, we found Anchor, which has all of these services in one spot in an easy-to-use format on desktop or mobile, and it's free, which fit really nicely into our beginner budget of $0. We were able to distribute our podcast to all of the major platforms like Spotify, Apple, and Amazon. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It's Mel.
And Kel.
And this is It's Called Culture.
Ever heard of it?
Hi, guys.
Hello. We're back again with another great episode for you all. Sounding country.
I said no one ever to us at all. Oh my God.
All right, so what are we talking about today, Melissa?
We are going to talk about food and more like behaviors surrounding food than necessarily actual food items. We saw something on Twitter. It was several weeks ago, maybe a month ago or more now, but it was Swedengate was trending, and it was because somebody had posted something about how in Sweden the cultural norm is to not necessarily feed your guests. And I won't say it as like, okay, you're not going to invite someone over for dinner and be like, I'm not feeding you, but more like if your kid has a friend over and, you know, it just becomes dinner time while their friend is there, they will call they'll call their kid down for dinner and like leave the friend in the room upstairs in the bedroom. Like, I'll be right back. I got to go have dinner. And like, they will not set a plate and offer food to the guest that they weren't planning on having.
That is interesting. Definitely not something in our household.
No. So all the like Swedish people came out in the comments and they were like, yeah, what's wrong with that? And then like every other culture pretty much was like, oh my God, our culture falls on like the force feeding side of the spectrum. So to just not even invite the guests or to tell them like they need to go home because it's dinner time is just like blowing my mind.
No, like our culture just wants to feed the neighborhood. I feel like that's what my mother or like our mothers live for, is just to see you eat. Like they just want you to like.
There's no greater joy in life than for them to watch someone eat. Right.
And especially to like eat and then compliment like how good the food was. That's it. They can die tomorrow. They die happy.
Oh my, I mean, they're probably gonna die tomorrow because that's what they think, but
always.
But it's such like a baffling concept to me. And I don't know where so my husband, I always call him an American just because he's kind of like doesn't have a real culture. His family and the way he grew up was always just like, I am going to make enough food for however many people I have sitting at the table. So if, let's say they're in a family of 4, they're going to pull out and defrost 4 chicken breasts and put 4 chicken breasts on the grill, and that's for dinner. So obviously if like a friend comes over unexpectedly, you literally just don't even have an extra chicken breast to give them. So I guess like from a Swedish perspective, that's probably what's happening, where like they just don't even have enough food to give you. It's not like they're trying to shut you out of their dinner, but like they only cooked 4 chicken breasts.
Right. So you can't even have seconds if you live in the household.
No.
So we don't have a portion control. It's like you get 2 steaks. You get like a second serving of a steak, added like mashed potatoes, French fries, a hoosh, some rice.
Can you imagine what a Portuguese food pyramid would look like for like daily servings?
It would like keep extending and extending and then end up being like maybe like just become like a circle almost.
With just carbs in the middle, just
all carbs.
potatoes on rice.
So, did your husband grow up like having dessert?
Like every day?
Yeah, isn't that like a thing that they do? Like, don't they have dessert? Or I'm also just seeing like what I see on TV. Like they always just kind of like, like eat up. You gotta eat all your dinner if you want dessert.
Oh, yeah, my husband, he's like he'll have like ice cream after dinner. Like he'll have a dessert.
Yeah, see, I am a dessert person, but I just don't think okay, just ate dinner, let me have a dessert now.
That's interesting. And I don't think I've ever really done dessert at like Portuguese restaurants. I will definitely get an after dinner espresso.
Yeah, you're very big on those.
But I feel like every time I would ask like what's for dessert at a Portuguese restaurant, like they'd be like flan or some chocolate mousse. And like it was just never really did it for me.
I can't say I really have either. I think our theory is like we're just too full from eating like the steak. You get that big massive steak plate. Who has room for dessert?
I will say I clean it up.
Yeah.
I eat the whole steak. There is not a grain of rice left on the plate.
I've
every fry.
You have.
I thought you were saying that you also clean it up. You're just saying, yes, I'd clean it up. I could be like, you know what? I'm not too hungry. I just ate like 2 hours ago, and I will just inhale the entire plate.
I think I inhale it too, but I'm more, I love the freaking sides. I'll eat all the sides and like have like still half of a steak left over. I love the sides. I love like the French fries with the ketchup, the yellow rice. Like just give it to me all.
So my mom, every time she orders at a Portuguese restaurant, she will actively request an entire gravy boat of moules to come to the table. Like when she places her order, she already knows. Like she doesn't have to wait for it to come out and like see that she wants more moules. Like she already knows. She goes in knowing that she wants to order. Like I'll have a steak plate, and could you bring like an extra bowl of moules? And they will come out with a full gravy boat. Like the one that you would put on the table at Thanksgiving dinner, like to feed the entire family. Like they will put a full gravy bowl on the table for her.
It's just for your mom.
Just for my mom. Which is just like, what even is that mood? Is it like beer? Is it mostly beer?
Yeah, right. I think it is.
I was always watching them marinate food, like, because they would marinate fresh food every day to eat.
Right.
And I would always be like curious, like as I was growing up, like I'd be like, oh, like how do you marinate this? Like, what are you putting in there? And they would just look at me and they'd be like, ol pimenta y sal, like those 3 ingredients. That's all you need. Just garlic, pepper, and salt. That's all you need.
Yeah, and our family marinates it like days in advance.
Yes, like things are not going well if she's marinating day of.
No.
She has marinated the night before, sat in the marinade in the fridge overnight at least.
Right.
Whereas like in my household, like I'm marinating it right now and it's like immediately being placed on the grill and like 0% of the flavors are soaking into the meat.
Does that have the time to get its goosh?
No, it has no time.
Has no goosh.
Okay, so it's a miracle that we're even marinating in my household, though, because I did marry an American.
Let's hear it.
They don't season shit. They never met a seasoning. I don't even understand. I've seen them take meats out of the package and put them on the grill. Straight from the fucking package.
That's like a big no-no. How does it even taste good?
I mean, it doesn't. but they just like salt and pepper on their plate after it's cooked. And I'm like, after the fact. So it just goes like from the package to the grill. And then on your plate, you salt and pepper it.
Nunca me vida.
Nunca na minha vida. I was like, the first time that happened to me, I was like, what is happening? Why is the chicken breast going to the grill? Why is it going to the grill? Why is it going to the grill?
Right.
It doesn't have anything on it.
It needs to be like in the bowl, marinated, should sit in the fridge for a little while.
Don't get me wrong. Like it took my husband a while to get acquired to our taste, like our seasonings and stuff, because
Right.
it's like salty, it's over seasoned, like, but that's like what we're used to.
Yeah.
Him, the first time I gave him a steak plate, and he has this steak, and he's like, "What is all this gravy? Like, what? Why is it wet? Like, what is going on?"
He just had an experience with the first time eating a steak plate.
And now he loves it. He absolutely loves it. So like I brought him over like from the dark side to the light, but it's been a process.
Does he see like the difference now? Like when he goes back home, and eats now, is he kind of like, oh, wow, they do have it. My wife's family does have it. Like, right. Like they are onto something.
I think he's probably somewhere. I think he probably lands somewhere in the middle now. So like his ideal meal would be somewhere in between both sides. Like,
right.
Because he'll go to my house and be like, "Your mom doesn't drain the grease out of anything. They don't drain grease. I don't like, does your mom drain grease? Like she'll brown hamburg in a pan. Like let's say she's making like chop suey, or she's making a lasagna or something, which I know are not like Portuguese foods, but she will not drain the grease.
No.
Which I thought was normal my whole life.
Yeah. Because I had to think about it, and I don't think she does.
And my husband, like when we first got together and started living together, he's like, "You need to drain the grease." And I'm like, "No, like, you just start making the gravy like right in here." And he's like, "You need to drain the grease." All my mom's foods, like if you put them in the fridge overnight, like the next morning when you take it out, it just has like this thick orange gel.
Right. Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh my God." He's like, "You have to scoop off like a half an inch layer of grease off of your mom's food." And I'm like, so now I'm like a little bit sensitized to it too. But like growing up, that was just how I thought you did it. You don't drain the grease. Like you're making a soup, like you're making whatever, like you're not draining any grease. You're just putting it all in there. Minestrone soup, you're just putting it in there.
I was just gonna say minestrone soup when my mom makes it. So I'll bring it to work sometimes as like leftovers. And I'm undoing the Tupperware and it's all orange coated.
Yes.
And I'm like, I hope my coworkers don't see this and judge me.
It's because they don't drain the grease. Like
my whole minestrone looks like it's like orange on top. And then once I like put it in the microwave and it comes out, obviously it's normal. Well, I guess.
Well, maybe. It's not. Like you just melted the grease right back into the soup.
Yeah.
Like, so my husband would scrape that. He would scrape that orange off before he heated it back up. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Oh, maybe I should do that the next time I have my minestrone. Literally, my soup looks like it's just orange on top.
So I'm assuming that is a Portuguese thing just because of my experience. And my husband saying that is not normal, but
I just feel like we have a little bit more flavor.
Yeah.
With it. Like, I don't know. It must like, how do you not marinate anything? Like, how do you buy it at the store, put it in the fridge or the freezer/fridge, depending on if you're making it whatever that day or you're defrosting it, and then boom, right to the grill.
It's like, I mean, it's jail worthy.
And we had this whole debate too. We weren't sure if we're like, do you wash chicken or not? Like, did we ever figure that out?
So, well, one of our friends uses like gloves, like she puts on
medical grade gloves
and buys it like pre-cut so she could just put it right in the pan. But I personally grew up in a household where like, yeah, we were washing the shit out of the chicken. They were probably like putting sabon in there, like putting some
right
and like rubbing it down. Like they were thoroughly washing the chicken.
What was it? We saw like something online. This was already like a while ago. We saw it online, but someone like, I don't know, some celebrity doesn't like wash their chicken. So that's how we like just sparked this whole debate, because we're like, do people not wash their chicken? Do they just like open the package and stop making it?
I think some of the people were saying that washing it like in, let's say in your sink, just like spreads the germs everywhere. Like now your whole sink is just covered in like salmonella chicken germs potentially. So I think that's why they were kind of saying like, okay, washing your chicken's not necessarily the best thing you can do, but I wash it. I just try to be
you gotta get in there and give it a good wash.
I give it like a quick rinse. Like I just like splash some cold water on it. I pour it out and I'm done. Like that's all I'm doing.
I want to give it a bath.
Oh my God. My grandmother would spend, I feel like hours washing kale leaves, curves in the
Oh,
sink.
Vanaka.
She would wash everything. Oh my God, I'm having flashbacks. She would wash saltine crackers. I have seen her put a saltine cracker under the faucet to wash off the salt because they were too salty.
But how does that work?
It doesn't.
Did she realize like as soon as she puts it in the water, it's just gonna crumble?
But she didn't want them to be so salty, so she would give him a little washerooski.
I think there's like unsalted brands.
This was in the 90s, so like who knows what was going on, but
No, yeah. I'm all for the veggies, especially if like you grew it outside or especially if you bought it at the store. I'm all for washing. I can get on board with her. I'm also like an OCD and I wash my hands like 80 times a day. So I can get on board with grandma on that one. But I don't know. I don't think I would do saltine crackers.
yeah, that was pushing it. So portion wise, let's go back to that because
Yeah.
my mom will cook a Sunday lunch if I'm around, and we have 4 people, 4 adults and like a child. She will cook like 16 chicken thighs and 12 drumsticks and 6 steaks and then side dishes, and you're like, who is this for? Why is, but it's there. And like, so I will eat, I'm all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm on my 4th chicken thigh. Like, what is going on? Why am I eating 4 chicken thighs? Like, and a steak. Like, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, my mom does the same thing too. Like there'll be like 3 of us and my mom cooks and as if there's like an army coming to like eat. There's no, like you said, there's no portion control.
They just want everybody to have like multiple rounds of food.
You get your extras and then there's like a third. And like you said, you just ate a steak, but you'll eat like 2 drumsticks with it because it's just there.
Just because
And
it's there.
I've done that too. And like I'm like, I don't think at a restaurant I would just eat the steak and I'd be good. And content with just the steak.
Right. It's ridiculous. And I guess like they have leftovers, so they're like big leftover vibes.
Yeah, we're big leftover people.
It was weird though, because I feel like they were cooking every night, no matter what, but there was always just like leftovers in the mix because they would cook so much. So like I couldn't really figure that out because it wasn't like they were just like they were always cooking.
Like you're always cooking and there's always leftovers. So where are the leftovers going if you're always cooking?
In your lunch container.
Actually, just tonight my mom made an actual seafood platter with mussels, and I'm taking the rest tomorrow for lunch. So my coworkers, I come in with this like gourmet lunch, and my coworkers are like run into like Burger King or Dunkin' Donuts or whatever that's like around the corner, and here I am just eating my marishki. That's right. The other day, I had a bifana, like a steak inside of a pop sook for lunch.
That's amazing.
My coworkers are eating salad.
Right. You know like who has a bifana as a leftover lunch situation?
Nothing will go to waste.
So one of the things with leftovers that I always find hilarious is related to the soup. Like they're always making soup. They make soup more than anyone, right? Like my husband's family, I don't think ever made a soup in their entire life. Like, what do you even mean? The Portuguese people love their soup, and they'll always make this giant pan. It's like a magic pot of soup because you start eating it on the first couple days, right? The sauce starts to thicken up. So you need to like water it down to get it back to that normal consistency. So you just add water and then you eat some and you add water and you eat some. And it literally just the level in the pan never changes. Like you ate, like you fed like 4 people for the whole week out of this pan of soup. And there's still the same amount of soup at the end of the week. It's just, they add a little more water, a little more salt, a little more water, a little more salt.
It's so true. Like it lasts them the whole entire week when they make it. And at some point, though, it doesn't become soup anymore, though, I would think.
They make it like, at least my mom, she'll make it like extra stocky at the beginning of the week so that it like thins out. And like at the end of the week, it's still regular soup.
But is it really? Like if you just keep adding water at the end. No, but like my mom will do the same. Like it'll be soup lasted for the week. That's the only way we get our vegetables in.
Oh,
We don't believe in vegetables in our culture. We never have like vegetables as a side. So kale in the soup is the only way we get it.
absolutely. Vegetables? Are you kidding me? Nunca na minha vida.
Nope. Never. I never had
Not at home.
broccoli.
Not at home. Not at the restaurant. Like,
And not at school.
no. No. No, I didn't even know vegetables existed.
Nope. We never had to eat our Brussels sprouts. Can't even
I know.
say the word.
That was always like a stigma thing, right? Like, oh, like kids have to eat these gross Brussels sprouts or these gross broccoli, and like never offered. I was never offered a vegetable my entire life. Are you kidding me?
I think
Are
like
olives vegetables? Because there'd be like one olive on top of the rice.
like occasionally we would have corn. Corn would be like a side of something, but that's it.
My dad was he was cutting potatoes and frying up French fries every night.
That's what I don't understand.
That's a lot of work.
How are you? Yeah, that is. My mom would do the same thing, like because it would be like pretty much fresh French fries
Every night. Yes.
I just don't like. My mom was very against buying like the pre-cut French fries already, like the frozen ones. I
Oh
don't know
no,
why.
never. Nope. They would slice the potatoes into
It's
French fries.
So much work.
So much work. And then they would deep fry them on the stove with like the little pan.
Yeah, because they didn't have air fryers at the time.
No. And rice. And so it was mostly fries and rice, but you're right. They would open up a can of corn and like,
yeah, like an occasional
can of corn, but you eat your corn cold, like straight from the can, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. That's the
Absolutely.
only way. Is there another way? I don't know. Do people heat it up? Do people heat up that corn?
I don't know. I don't see why would you?
I don't know. We never did.
No, we never did either. Even for like Thanksgiving, that's the corn we use for Thanksgiving is the corn out of the can. It's no fresh corn.
All right. You know what green there was often, and it was almost like an appetizer and not necessarily a side dish. But we just found out that we both did the same thing where you cut up you just slice up a cucumber. You don't eat a salad, you just a cucumber. You slice it up and just salt it.
The best.
Like I used to eat that all the time.
Yeah, I actually had some the other day.
Everything's salted though. Everything's salted.
It's high cholesterol, right? If you eat too much salted things. I think that's what it is. I think that's the right thing.
So basically all Portuguese people have high cholesterol.
You always hear about it. It's either the high cholesterol, the high blood pressure, one or the other that they always have.
The amount of salt. When I cook now, like I salt with like a small salt shaker. Like, you know how there's like a table salt shaker?
Yep.
Like that's what I use to salt my food when I'm cooking. I will use a small like shaker.
Yeah.
My mom, like growing up, like she goes straight from the big jug with the little silver spout. Like she
Absolutely.
goes, I mean, she is, but like the salt is just pouring out of there, like fast velocity. Like it's just, it's different. It's different than the way that I cook.
Yeah, so my dad is currently making his own lupini beans, and so it's like a long process. Don't really know too much about it. It's like you gotta wash it, rinse it out, and then you put it back in the pan with water, and then you put salt in it. So I watched him salt it the other day, and he literally just same thing, that container with the little metal sprout that comes out, and it was just going down. It was just ruined all the salt. And I was like, holy shit. And you have to do that like every day, apparently, in this step. Because it's like, it has to absorb it. That's how I guess the lupini bean gets like salty is by this step. But I'm like, holy shit. Like my dad will probably be done with one of those little containers with the sprout thing. He'll probably be done with one of those by the time this whole process is over.
I still can't. You've been telling me that he's cooking these lupini beans and you've been sending me these little videos that we will eventually post, but I can't wrap my mind around what he's doing. Like, why can't you just boil them on the stove? Like, I don't understand what he's doing.
So he tried to eat them the other day to see, and he's like, "Oh, they're not ready yet." So he took a couple to try to see how it was doing. And he's like, and I tried one, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is disgusting! It didn't even taste. I don't know." So,
but does he cook them?
Yeah, so he boils them first. So I have it all. I did all video, so I will post this eventually when the process is done. I want to post this step by step. So I guess, buy the bean. Because I saw it already. When I saw it already, he was only boiling it. You boil it for like a few hours, I think. Because the other day they had it boiling for a few hours, and you just let it boil, and then you have to like salt it, and then you just have to let it sit there
for like 7 days.
But then the next day you take it out. You get the tosh. It's inside the tosh. You wash it. You gotta like wash them, give it a rinse, and then put them back in. Put more water, and then you have to salt them, and then again it sits there, and you just have to repeat the process.
So I'm really confused because I, for the first time in my life, very recently, like within the past like 3 or 4 months, started buying dry beans instead of like canned beans for like, you know, black beans, pinto beans, whatever. Instead of canned beans, I now buy
the dry ones.
I'm getting back in touch with my roots, back to basics and going simple. So I'm like, yeah, we're going to buy the regular dry bean and we're going to work this. But I didn't realize that the first time I bought it, like I thought you just boil the freaking beans. And then I read the instructions on the back and I was like, wait, I'm sorry, you have to soak the bean for like 12 to 24 hours first. And then you have to still cook it for like 3 to 4 hours in the pan. And I'm like, who has this kind of forethought for like, I want beans 4 days from now. Let me start my dry bean process now. Like so I can, like, I have these dry beans. I've made them a couple times, but I have these dry beans just sitting in my pantry because every time I'm like, oh yeah, I need beans to go with like whatever I'm making. And I'm like, I look at the clock. I'm like, it ain't happening.
Oh no. Yeah. Who knew like there was like a process to them? No idea.
No, but so what I was going to say, the reason I'm confused with your dad's process is that with the beans that I cook, it's like you soak first and then you cook and then you eat. And he seems like he cooked and then he's soaking for days and then he's going to eat. So it's weird.
But him and my mom are like, nope, this is how you're supposed to do it. So it's something I learned this past weekend.
Listen, I trust them wholeheartedly. Okay.
I don't know. They could be wrong.
Before we get too far off this topic, we need to talk about one more of the carbo load pieces to this puzzle that we haven't discussed, which is the bread.
Oh my God.
At every meal.
Every meal. How did we forget about this one?
I never obviously knew it was not normal growing up because it's just what we did. That was what we were used to. But when I started dating my husband, he was like, why do your parents have bread like all the time? He was not accustomed to eating a meal, like sitting down for dinner and having like full loaves of bread as a side. He's like, I'm not eating a sandwich. Like, I don't understand why there's so much bread on the table, like when we're eating.
I feel like a meal isn't complete if you don't have the popsicle with it. Because I need my bread to like dip it in the sauce. That's what I like to have my bread for.
100%. I'm dipping the bread in the sauce.
Right. But my parents sometimes will have a meal. I can't think of a meal top off of my head right now.
Lasagna.
Or something like that. And they'll have bread.
They'll have a popsicle on the side of the lasagna. And you're like, what is this for? What are you doing with this?
What are you dipping it in?
Yeah, it's like a staple for them. Like they have to have it with the meal.
I know we mentioned my father in the last episode going to the bakery and buying freaking ointments from random people, but he goes to the bakery every morning and brings home like half a dozen of bread. So my house at least eats half a dozen of bread because he always has to like go the next morning to go get more.
Well, yeah, because you're eating them. Like I eat the pup section in the morning for breakfast, like when I'm visiting my parents or whatever. Like I'll have like 2 at least for breakfast.
Easy. It goes
easy.
down easy.
They go down easy. They're basically hollow inside. Like it's all air in there. There's a lot of biroksh, okay?
That's like, how bad are they really? And when you like, they are like, yeah, they are really hollow. So how bad are they really to have?
Have you ever seen like a nutritional fact on a pup suck? They come in a brown bag. Like there ain't no nutritional facts on there.
Are these pop sucks gluten free? No, couldn't tell you. They're probably not, but
my guess is no. Right. So like when I was little, did you used to do the thing where you would just open up the pup suck and just pull out all the
oh yeah, yeah.
mule, eat all the mule out of it? My mom would, and then I would like put them back together sometimes. So like I would make just like a little hole and I would just use my finger like a hook and I would just like pull all the inside of the bread out. And then like sometimes it would look like the bread was still there, but it was literally empty inside. And my mom would be like, it's like a little mouse was here just eating this bread.
A little mouse called Missy.
Missy Mouse.
I love that your mom still calls you that though.
Yes. My family, it's a very family thing. Like my whole family calls me Missy.
I love that so much.
I had a former coworker, like he just like used it in passing with me. And I just like had this like visceral reaction to it because I was like, only my family calls me that. Like it was so weird. So like restaurants though, like I'm trying to figure out how like my husband thinks it's not normal to have bread with your meal. Cause like if you go to restaurants, they'll give you a basket of bread, but I'm trying to think like maybe those are just not American restaurants. Maybe those are like the European restaurants will give you a basket of bread like Italians or Portuguese. But then like you go to an American restaurant and they're coming out with like a bag of popcorn.
Right. Like you go to 99. I haven't been into 99 forever, but I know last time I just remember going to them, they always had like cheese and crackers, but they looked like little Cheez-Its. Mexican, they give us chips and salsa, which I love.
But even if you go to like, I'm going to say throw out like Longhorns, Outback Steakhouse, Texas Roadhouse, like whatever those chains are, like they're coming out with a bread roll for you in a basket, right? They have like little rolls.
With like
cinnamon butter or something.
Yeah. They'll have like a bread like that. Or are you asking for that bread and then they come with it?
No, they just come with it.
No, you're right. Yeah.
So I don't know why he thought it was so weird, but maybe he thinks that's more of like a restaurant thing and like at home for dinners. Like his family never like was going out and getting rolls to have with dinner, but
his family only cooks for a family of 4. They're not getting bread every day. No offense. Love you guys. But they're not getting no pop sucks. Him coming to college here, was that his like first experience with like the Portuguese culture?
Yes. Yes.
And like being with you, obviously. Like college and being with you.
Yes.
That's crazy. So other than that, like before you, he didn't know anyone that was Portuguese.
No.
It's wild.
Didn't exist. Right. So I opened his eyes to the Portuguese world. Immersive. It was like an immersive experience, like Van Gogh. All right. So I have a couple of like, I'm going to call them like rapid fire thoughts that I just want to get out there before we like switch gears just a tad on on these topics we were just talking about. So like we mentioned kale earlier. Like my grandmother was washing the kale in the sink all the time, and she was growing her own kale. And I just need to shout out the Portuguese people because kale is like trendy now, and kale like kale's trendy. Kale's very bougie, organic. Like everybody's
kale smoothies, kale this, kale that.
Hot on kale, hot commodity, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like we grew up eating kale before kale was cool.
That's right.
My favorite soup is called verde, which is 3 ingredients. Is literally kale, potatoes, and like sliced up chorizo.
Yeah, and sometimes there's a bean in there. If they throw a bean in there.
Oh, nunca na minha vida.
Oh no,
bean in there. No,
you never had a bean in there. I've had it before with a bean.
One bean?
No, not one bean. imagine that?
Okay. So the reason,
Like when you get French fries from like Burger King or McDonald's, well, probably Burger King, and there's like an onion ring.
no, so the reason that I think this is so funny is because the Portuguese restaurant that I used to go to, you would order calvados and they would make it so that like, so let's say our whole table ordered a bowl, right? So they bring out like 4 or 5 bowls for the table. And every single bowl had exactly one chorizo in it, like one ringlet of chorizo. And it was like they counted, like they literally, like it was not one more, not one less. It was literally like they're scooping in the broth, and then they'd be like, "Okay, I'm chorizo, I'm chorizo," like, and they just put one chorizo in each bowl.
They have like the chorizo in a whole separate bowl already pre-cut and like pre-cooked, so they just like throw it in there because they don't want to give you guys any more or any less.
Right. So it was like even. So like everybody got one chorizo in their bowl. So that's why when you said the one bean, I'm like, I could just picture them in the back just scooping out one bean for each person.
Imagine. You know, I've had it with like a kidney bean in there. But yeah, no, like who would have thought that kale would be like this hot and trendy thing when we've had it all along? It was like the only freaking vegetable that we have. And it's crazy because I'm not really big into like kale smoothies. Isn't that wild? Like I'm not.
I love them.
Do you?
Them. Yeah.
It depends what else they're mixed with. Because a lot of them are like, if you go somewhere, a lot of them are mixed with like the ginger, and I don't like the ginger, so I'll have it without it. But I don't know. I'd rather eat it in my soup.
Yeah, it's really good in the soup, but like I eat it in salads too. So
yeah, I'll eat it in a salad.
Brent lets me like put a little bit of kale in his salad, but he can't have it be like overwhelmingly kale because he says it's too earthy. Like
my face right now.
Like it tastes like the earth.
I can't. Your husband surprises me all the time. So why doesn't he just put more salad dressing on it? Oh wait, I'm sorry. You water your fucking salad dressing.
That's a whole other discussion, folks. I made a whole TikTok video about how he waters down his salad dressing with tap water into the bottle. It's a whole thing.
And that doesn't taste like earth. The tap water.
It tastes like city water. All right, my last like rapid fire thought, I guess, then to just close this episode out is going to be about what happens when they find out that you like something.
So the second they find out that you like a meal that they made, they will make it for you endlessly. Like you'll have it 3 times out of the week. They'll make it for you. They're happy that they like found something that you like, but they overdo it. By the 3rd or 4th time you've had it, you don't like it anymore.
Oh, so especially if it's something that you actually don't even like. So my great grandmother, she discovered Jell-O late in her life. She was very old. She discovered that they had these little boxes and you could make these little Jell-O things, right? Little gelatin. And so she made this red Jell-O one day and she said, "Oh, let me take this across the street to Melissa. Like the kids will like this. I made Jell-O. Let me go bring it to them." And she brought it over. And it was honestly the worst Jell-O I've ever had in my entire life. She didn't do the ratios right. It was like thick and chewy and crusty as hell. It was not good. I don't know how you can mess up Jell-O.
No, right.
It was bad. Like it was tough.
Yeah.
I don't know how she did that, but it was tough. And
it was tough.
I didn't obviously want to hurt her feelings. So she brought the Jell-O over and she was like, "Oh, do you like it?" And I was like, like couldn't even swallow it. Like it was so bad. And she proceeded to then continue to make me this crusty ass red Jell-O for every single day because she had nothing else to do. She would sit out in the yard and I would have to eat it in front of her. And I was like, "Oh my God, this is the worst. I'm in too deep. I don't know how to get out of this," and be like, I really don't even like Jell-O.
You can't get out of it. You had to wait till she passed away and stop making it.
Seriously.
Because they get so fucking offended.
Oh
if
my
you like end up
gosh.
saying something like telling them that you don't like something that they made.
Yeah, I was in too deep in
Yeah.
Jello. I was like, I don't know how to get out of this.
No, nope. You had to just wait till either they stopped making Jello or she was a goner at that point because you can't say it.
I wish I knew what she was doing wrong because that was such bad Jello. Like maybe it was just like not enough water.
The actual regular Jello might be water.
It's definitely water, but like, like just not enough. I don't know. Like, how did it get so chewy?
Did any of your other cousins like eat it? Or was it just you, one thing?
I think I was like the sole victim of the Jello, and it was pretty bad. But so the one time that I did have an aunt make something that all the kids loved and were obsessed with was hot dogs. And it was literally just like she'd go buy these Oscar Mayer hot dogs from the store, like the turkey hot dogs, and she would just boil them. And her thing was that we never ate them with a bun. So she would babysit a bunch of kids, like all my cousins and other kids that she would take in and babysit. She would just then hand you a hot dog. You'd just grabbing it in your fist, right? And you would just chomp on this hot dog and whatever. And like, we just loved it. Like, we thought it was like the best thing ever. These were the tastiest hot dogs you've ever had, right? And all the kids just like collectively, it's all we talked about was like, oh my God, Tia's hot dogs are so good, right? And all of our parents, grandparents, whatever, wanted to do that for us. So they wanted to be like, oh my God, you love these hot dogs so much. Like, I want to make them for you. And it was it was never the same. So she literally did nothing. Like, she just bought them in a package, boiled them, and then let them cool, and then handed them to us. But no matter what, my mom tried to make them many times for me. My grandmother tried to make them many times for me. And it wasn't just me, but like all of the kids would be like, not the same. They're not the same. They don't taste the same. And my grandmother got so pissed. She was like, I don't know what she does. She's just talking about my aunt. She's like, I don't know what she does. A la mijana agua, which means like she must pee in the pan, like she must pee in the water, because she couldn't figure it out and she was at her wit's end. And I just thought it was the funniest thing.
Did you guys ever figure out what it was?
No.
Or just no?
I mean, I didn't try to pee in the water, so like maybe my grandmother was on to something. But
I'm like waiting here, like, oh, she's gonna tell me this is what your aunt did, and I'd be like, oh wow, but no, you got nothing.
I got nothing other than my grandmother's suspicions.
Her peeing in it.
A la mijana agua.
So I had a babysitter that I would go to in the summers. And same thing, it was like me, my brother, and like all her grandkids, and I'm very close with them all still. And I pretty much considered her as a vovó because I had my vovó in Portugal that I didn't get to see a lot. So she was like my other vovó. And same thing, that was like another thing. She would always make hot dogs for us. It was always like hot dogs or like chow mein. And we would always like have cereal too. It was always a hot dog though.
Did you raw dog it though in your fist?
I did not raw dog it. But we also didn't eat it in the bread either. So that's really funny. What we would do is like she would boil the hot dogs, and once they were obviously like done and ready, we would cut them like in little slices. So they'd be like a little like a hot dog, almost like a little hot dog chip, and we would eat them with like our ketchup.
Yeah, that's a normal way to eat it. Like, I was walking around with a floppy dog in my fist, you know, eating it like a Slim Jim. Like, sometimes you'd get two, and you'd just be like
double fisted.
Yeah, and it's just very Little Rascals. Like, I got two pickles, two pickles, two pickles. I got two pickles. Hey, hey, hey.
Such a great movie. I could also mention what she would do with her leftovers. She always had a bunch of grandkids, like her grandkids, and like me and my brother, like I said. And me and one of her granddaughters were the youngest in the group. So all of them would eat like their lunch, and like I said, it would be chow mein sometimes or whatever. Ramen noodle was another one, like the ramen thing. And so like whatever the kids didn't finish, the older one, I know this is totally side note. Whenever the older ones like didn't get to finish, she obviously because she didn't want to waste anything, she would put everything like she would mix. So let's say like my brother had chow mein and the other boy had ramen noodle, or and someone ate like say the other kid because there was like 7 of us. The other kid had cereal for lunch. So whatever they didn't finish, she would just mix it together, and me and the younger one ate that.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. She was not mixing cereal with chow mein.
And I was very young, so she was almost like feeding me at that point still, because like I went there kind of young still, very young. So I had no say in it. And we talk about it till this day, how she would mix everything together, and like me and the younger, it was only me and the younger granddaughter always got stuck eating it.
So it's bad enough. Like I thought you were going to say like, okay, like let's say they were all eating their own bowls of ramen noodles and like they all left a little bit and like she just kind of compiled it at the end and gave it to you. Like that's bad enough. Just from a COVID, from a germ perspective, backwash perspective, like that's bad enough.
Right. But at least it's the same meal.
Right.
But that wasn't the case.
So homegirl was mixing up everybody's different like beefaroni and
whoever didn't finish
chow mein and just making one big mashtuda and giving it to you.
Yep.
Did you ever grow out of it to the point where you were the one getting the fresh food and giving the young kid, some other young sap, your leftovers?
Yeah, so she did. So as I was getting older and I was still going there, she did have more grandkids. So they were younger kids than me going there still. I would get the fresh food finally, and then they would get the leftovers. So it was just like a cycle.
Nunca na minha vida.
She was the best though. She was awesome. Like we would just run around that whole apartment, and like she would just stop us midway. Ugh, she was amazing. She would stop us midway as we were like we're playing tag in her apartment, whatever. And she would grab us and like wash our feet for us. She was like Jesus, washing our feet on the Holy Thursday, because they would get so black from like running around on her rugs. Our feet would get so black, and she would like wash them like for us. We were just like in the middle of a tag game. She would just pick us up.
No.
But anyway, that's a tangent.
You brought up Jesus, and I just cannot believe we didn't bring up Jesus with the soup. The soup that just kept on giving all week for leftovers is a real Jesus, fish in the loaves miracle.
Fishes in the loaves, yeah.
That's what they didn't tell you in the Bible. It was fish soup, and they just kept adding water. That's how he fed 5,000 people.
That's right. Just add water. That's all it said on the label. Just add water. So it's about that time. Thanks for listening.
If you're enjoying our podcast, please just give us a review on whatever platform you're using to listen to us. You can also visit our website. It's folkandfad.com. We have transcripts available there of every episode. And you can also send us an email, mail@folkandfad.com, or you can hit us up on Twitter. Same handle there, folkandfad.
And for Instagram, you can follow us at _It's Called Culture.